Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu is a Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our Albums of the Year list. This time it's 2009, and 2009 not really a strong year. I think in 2008 the bicycle was already wobbling a bit, but in 2009 the bolts are all shearing off and the bicycle is falling to pieces. Nevertheless, I still have 10 really good records for you, so without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums from 2009. So, we're going to be kicking off this list with Here and Elsewhere, which was the debut album by much neglected indie band My Sad Captains, who in style are not a million miles away from Belle and Sebastian, and this album delves into the world of twee Wes Anderson baiting jangle pop, featuring fragile vocals and the type of wispy tunes that sound like they might break in the lightest of breezes. Everything is universally pleasant and eager to please, with mild bouncing melodies, earworm vocal hooks and gentle lapping waves of catharsis. The album has a consistent quality to it, with highlights including the stomping opener Great Expectations, the doo-wop infused lead single Good to Go, and the emotional salient duo of Troika and You Talk All Night, and the surprising guitar bite of All Had No Plans. So yeah, whilst never going to set anybody's house on fire, it's far too polite to do that. This is nonetheless a lovely, pure-spirited indie pop record to be played on those rare sunny days. Next up, we have Years of Refusal by Morrissey. This one sees the Bard re-teaming with Jerry Finn, who also produced his biggest selling LP, You Are the Quarry. Sadly, this was to be Finn's last work as he passed away shortly after the album's release. And here we find Morrissey in vapid pop mode. This is all about straight fire catchiness, rarely resorting to such crass ideas as emotional depth or lyrical excellence. As such, this isn't exactly peak Morrissey, but even on an off day, Morrissey is still pretty damn good. Finn's bombastic pop-punk production papers over a lot of the cracks with clattering guitar energy, and there's a lot of sing-along fun to be had here. Highlights include the snarling punk opener, Something Is Squeezing My Skull, the blustering Black Cloud, the incredibly hooky lead single, I'm Throwing My Arms Around Paris, and, in a rare concession to lyrical fireworks, the fairly hilarious All You Need Is Me. But my favourite off of this though is One Day Goodbye Will Be Farewell, with its euphoric trumpets and final countdown-esque swagger. So yeah, whilst not anywhere near as good as Morrissey's best work, this is still easily good enough to be making this list. Next up, we have the debut album by post-punk pop stars White Lies, entitled To Lose My Life. If a post-punk pop star sounds odd, that's because it is, but for the briefest of seconds, this band entered the zeitgeist of the pop sphere, and a million teen goth girls creamed their knickers over Pretty Boy frontman Harry McVie. But you know what? The amalgamation of pop and post-punk kind of works. This band sounds like the reincarnation of Duran Duran, albeit if Simon Le Bon was somehow obsessed with Joy Division. And although their pop leanings set the more discerning post-punk fans against them from the start, there's plenty to really enjoy here. To Lose My Life channels the Killers' Somebody Told Me to great effect. The eye-rollingly titled opener Death is actually pretty good with its growling guitar thrash. Unfinished Business is just straight up Duran Duran, even going as far to include the lyric, A Sight for Sore Eyes and a View to Kill. Awesome track though, with its wicked funeral organ. Farewell to the Fairground is also a bit of catchy fun, but my favourite off of this is From the Stars, with its lyrical depiction of an existential nervous breakdown, framed by galloping violins. It's just really cool. So yeah, although never destined to be the most legitimate or coolest band in the world, White Lies still managed to make an absolutely cracking debut. Coming in next, we have Only Revolutions by Biffy Clyro, which was the band's 5th album. The band's previous record, Puzzle, had been a huge breakout smash for the band, yet I personally thought it was incredibly dull. Mercifully, this LP sees the band shifting away from trudgingly serious alt metal and into batshit crazy pop mode. This is easily the band's lightest and most pop-orientated album, and it's a pretty joyous experience. Super catchy opener The Captain features a rising horn section that blows the top of the song wide open. That Golden Rule goes nuts with the crazy guitar riffs. Bubbles has Josh Homme jumping in for guitar duties, and Born on a Horse is just insane with its creaking synth bass and baffling lyrics. I mean, she's got hooves. Preposterous hooves. I've never had a lover who's my sister or my brother before. Huh? What? But there is more emotionally rewarding fare on here too though. Notably supplied by the UK top 5 single Mountains and the truly beautiful Many of Horror. Chef's kiss, that song absolutely rules. Also worth a shout is the cathartic closer Horses, which is spelt with a W, like, you know, horses. Why? I couldn't tell you, but the track is awesome. So yeah, this is Biffy Clyro at the peak of their chart powers, and in very fine fettle, great stuff. Next up, we have Daisy, which was the 4th album by once skate punkers, now decidedly art rockers brand new. On this record, the band have gone totally nuts, switching from the brooding, heavy post-punk of their previous LP into wiry, experimental post-hardcore. There's definitely more than a slight whiff of Fugazi about this one, but you know, I'm not complaining because Fugazi rule. And so does this album. It's flush with inventive sequences, sullen emotions, and hard rocking energy. The record is also incredibly consistent, with no bad tracks, and at 40 minutes long, also wraps up in a timely fashion without over-egging the pudding. Highlights include the hilariously insane opener Vices. I mean, that transition from 40s ballad to brutal punk is just so damn funny. At the bottom, shows off Jesse Lacey's superb lyricism with its memorable chorus of, I'll carry this box to its proper place, lower it down, let you fade away, I hope that you would do this for me. I'd serve you drugs on a silver plate if I thought it would help you get away. I hope that you would do this for me. That's just badass. Elsewhere, Gasoline has him screaming, I feel like I'm jumping towards the train over a brutal guitar maelstrom. Mid-album banger Sync is also a lot of scream-along fun, whilst the atmospheric title track and epic closer Noro see to the more overtly emotional side of things. So yeah, this is just another great album by Brand New, and a very easy placing on this list. So we're going to be kicking off the top 5 with Forget the Night Ahead, which was the sophomore album by the Twilight Sad. On this record, the band are totally embracing the darker side of post-punk and descending into the bowels of misery and despair. This album makes use of droning bass, discordant guitars, walls of distorted shoegaze, and uncomfortable, off-kilter melodies. Every sinew of this album is dedicated in trying to unnerve you. It's a really, really dark record, very much aligning itself with The Cure's Pornography or Joy Division's Closer. And it totally nails what it's going for, creating a deep and atmospheric tour through sonic hellscapes. Singer James Graham has lost none of his ability for catchy vocal hooks, however, and on tracks like 7 Years of Letters and The Room, his vocals have become like little rays of light to cling onto in the dark. It's weird how something so dark can also be so catchy. Other highlights include the starkly depressing Floorboards Under the Bed, the rocking duo of Interrupted and The Neighbors Can't Breathe, and the grinding bass of Opener Reflection of the Television. So yeah, as good as the band's debut 14 Autumns and 15 Winters was, it's here on this second album that the Twilight Sad truly became the band that I love. Coming in next, we have It's Blitz, which was the 3rd LP from trendy stripped-back New York punks Yeah Yeah Yeahs, except on this album, they're not stripped back, or even punks. Hell, maybe they're not even from New York anymore, who knows? But what I do know is that they have sidelined the guitars on this in favour of synths, keys and a whole lot of dance beats. Opening duo of Zero and Heads Will Roll are just straight up dance floor fillers and are incredibly impressive tracks. Soft Shock feels like it should be on the soundtrack to the Ryan Gosling flick Drive, which is a fucking awesome movie by the way, go watch that if you haven't seen it. But despite all the dance beats and the sub bass, the best moments on this record are the hauntingly emotional moments. Skeleton strips away all the adornments and lets Karen O's voice soar up to the stratosphere, while Runaway has a real lilting sadness to it with its gradually building shoegaze elements. My favourite off this though is Hysteric with its heart-wrenching chorus of "So sweetly, hang heavy, you suddenly complete me, you suddenly complete me." Ah man, it's just so good. It's just the most romantic thing this side of Jerry Maguire. So yeah, although there are a few tracks on this that don't quite match up to the quality of everything else, the peaks on this album are so damn awe-inspiring that it just makes it a ubiquitous pick for any best of 2009 list. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Junior by Roix Up, which was the band's third album, and this LP sees the band lighten up a bit, putting aside the icy soundscapes of their previous record and concentrating on an all-out pop assault. And it works a treat, as this album is just tons of dancey fun. The soundscapes on this record are rich, warm and bursting with detail. There's always something new to find hiding in the background each time you listen. The track listing is also incredibly consistent and it's just stuffed with awesome highlights, including the Robin-fronted The Girl and the Robot, the banging dance floor filler This Must Be It, the pulsating aggression of Tricky Tricky, and the wicked creaking bass synth of Vision 1. So yeah, this is Roix Up at their most playful, and it's just an awesome killer pop record, and highly recommended. And yeah, if you want more insight into the discography of Roix Up, I recently made a full ranking video, which I will link at the end of the list. But this record, just one of the first records I think of when I think of 2009, so yeah, easy placing on this list. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to the debut album by Scottish post-punk / indie pop band We Were Promised Jetpacks, which is entitled These Four Walls. This band was signed after they jammed a demo tape into the midst of Frightened Rabbit's Scott Hutchinson, who made off with the gold on the previous list, so yeah, he's done another good turn here, as We Were Promised Jetpacks are pretty damn great. But their arrival on this list also holds a touch of sadness for me, as they were the last new band that I ever truly loved. For example, they are the most modern band that I actually went out of my way and bought a t-shirt for. In the next decade, I kind of settled into dad mode, mostly falling back on legacy acts rather than trying to find the next new thing, so the next decade's list should certainly be a bit of a challenge for me. Hopefully, I can make some awesome discoveries during my research and pay them forward to you, the Chuchu as a Ranker audience. Fingers crossed, I will do my best. Anyways, back to this here awesome record. We Were Promised Jetpack take Block Party's angular indie sound, mix it with some of Biffy Clyro's savagery, and add more than a dash of Idlewild into the mix. Add into that some post-punk and shoegaze elements, and you have a pretty damn heady concoction. And this band has a great balance of tough and tender, often within the same song. The opener, It's Thunder and It's Lightning, is a great example of that. All introspective arpeggiated riffs and huge distorted explosions. It's just a great introduction to the LP. Ships with Holes Will Sink, Roll Up Your Sleeves, and the super catchy lead single Quiet Little Voices provide immediate fuel for the local indie disco, whilst the jumbled drums and rhythmic thrust of Short Bursts is also pretty damn impressive. The best moments off of this though come during the more emotional forays. Conductor is all weeping melodies and restrained build up. It's a thing of fragile beauty, whilst album highlight This Is My House, This Is My Home is just one of my favourite indie tracks ever. The moment it lifts off with its thumping guitar explosion is a real goosebump moment for me. It's just absolutely awesome. Chef's kiss for that. Add into that the 8-minute opus that is the mostly instrumental Keeping Warm, and you have a masterful indie record that's just full of heart, yet also manages to capture the cold, isolated feeling of the Scottish Highlands. It's just an absolutely amazing album. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 2009 is going to go to Actor, which was the sophomore effort from art pop goddess St. Vincent, who is an unbelievably talented multi-instrumentalist and songwriter, and on this LP she wrote pieces of music to score imaginary film scenes, building them up musically before adding vocals and lyrics. And as you can well imagine, this has a really cinematic feel to it and completely absorbs you with its swelling atmosphere. Despite all of its avant-garde PJ Harvey-esque cutting-edge dynamics, the fluttering orchestral elements, the flutes, the panpipes, the cellos, the lutes, etc. really recall early period Divine Comedy for me. This feels very much in step with that band's Liberation and Promenade LPs, and has the same kind of lo-fi 1940s post-war atmosphere. It's pretty damn cool, and the complex arrangements also add an almost kind of jazz vibe to the proceedings. The album is incredibly consistent and cohesive and full of odd turns and tonal surprises, and of course, great tunes. Highlights include the swaying opener The Strangers, with its references to mysterious black eyes and the hooky line, "Paint the black hole blacker." Cool. Actor Out of Work and The Party have more stable pop melodies, the latter really impressing with its closing choral liftoff. Black Rainbow is also awesome with its constantly ascending distorted outro, and album highlight Marrow kicks all kinds of ass with its buzzing synth bass and sick gnarly guitar riffs. So yeah, ultimately St. Vincent's Actor is an exceptional experimental piece of art rock with rhythmic swagger and an unassailably cool atmosphere. And yeah, it just comfortably wins my pick for the best of 2009. And that's it, that's my 2009 list. But that might not be your list. Please sound off in the comment section and tell me all the classics that I've missed. Like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check back for my next list, which will be the start of a brand new decade, so super exciting. Take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.